Hi there, Danga Meinhardt back again with another chapter of The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. Doing it for the Coyote Sunrise Book Club here during this school closure situation. I've already posted chapter 1 and 2, so if this is the first one you've watched, you're probably going to want to go back and listen to those ones. And again, I'm not going to be able to post the whole book, so please don't expect to be able to just watch all of these and get the whole story. For time reasons and copyright reasons, I can't post the whole book. I'm just going to post the first 7 or 8 chapters to help you get started. If you want to read the book for the Coyote Sunrise Book Club and join us at the end of March 2020, date still getting decided, to discuss the book. That's awesome. Hopefully you can get your hands on the book through a public library, ebook or audiobook. I've said that every time, but I want to be clear that I'm not trying to sell the book, and I also can't just make the whole thing available. So hopefully you can get your hands on it through your library or some other way. But here we go. Chapter 3. So we're back in the bus with Coyote and Coyote and Rodeo and Ivan. I remember last time it ended with Coyote realizing that Ivan, the secret kitten that her dad, Rodeo, doesn't know about, has fallen asleep on Rodeo's neck, who's also asleep. And I still have my Ivan here with me. You can sit right, doesn't quite show up. There he is. And so here we go. Chapter 3 in the remarkable journey of Coyote Sunrise. I would have gulped, but I was afraid the noise would wake Rodeo. I breathed in, quiet and easy as I could, and breathed back out. Rodeo is a reliably heavy sleeper. I once got 6 grapes into his mouth before he woke up, but even I knew this was going to be tough. I made my way toward Rodeo's sprawled body, one silent step at a time. The floor creaked beneath me. "Quiet, Jaeger," I prayed soundlessly. I snuck to within tickling distance of Rodeo's dirty-soled feet and shot him a quick side-eye. Walking around barefoot in gas station parking lots doesn't do the bottoms of your feet any favors on the cleanliness front, I promise. I made a mental note to do a better job of remembering to throw on some flip-flops in the future. I crept past his hairy toes. He was lying sideways on his blanket nest, so I was able to shuffle myself right up to his middle. His head was thrown back, his face turned away from Ivan. His mouth was wide open, and I spied a sunflower seed shell stuck in his beard. Despite all that, he looked peaceful, laying there, snuggling unawares with Ivan. Peace don't last forever, though. I leaned awkwardly over Rodeo, pinwheeling my arms for a second to keep from toppling right onto him, which would not have been ideal. I set my jaw, concentrated on my balance, and reached out with both hands for the kitten cuddled up in my dad's neck. But then, well, shoot. Then it all went to heck. Something must have made a sound. Maybe it was my heart hammering. Maybe I was breathing too loud through my nose. Maybe Jaeger creaked under my feet. I don't know. But whatever it was, Rodeo's eyes fluttered open. I stood still as a statue, hoping they'd settle right back closed. Instead, they slowly widened and focused on me. His eyebrows furrowed. "Coyote?" he said, his voice hoarse with sleep. "What are you doing?" I was standing over him, my hands reached out toward his neck. "Nothing," I answered. He blinked a few times and looked me up and down, still looming like a strangler over him. "Coyote?" he said again. "What are you doing?" "Nothing," I repeated, although to tell the truth, it sounded even stupider the second time. Rodeo cleared his throat. At that moment, Ivan opened his eyes. He blinked at me, just like Rodeo had. My heart stopped. He yawned, one of his molar-showing monster yawns. His yawn was soundless, but when he yawned, his whiskers must have brushed up against Rodeo's neck. Rodeo twitched and raised his hand to scratch at his neck. "No!" I shouted, leaping toward them both. I'm willing to admit it was not the smartest thing to do. Rodeo, understandably startled to wake up and find himself being attacked by his deranged daughter, jumped and screamed and tried to scramble away from me. Ivan, understandably startled to wake up and find his bed suddenly screaming and kicking, did what any cat would do in that situation. He dug all 10 of his razor claws into the nearest object, which, of course, happened to be Rodeo's neck. The results were both instantaneous and dramatic. There was a high-pitched screeching sound that at first I thought was coming from Ivan, but then realized was actually coming out of Rodeo's mouth. He leaped to his feet with the most speed and athleticism I'd seen him muster since the time he surprised a raccoon in the campground outhouse. Ivan, superstar kitten that he was, managed to keep his grip on Rodeo's neck through all the screeching and the leaping. Once Rodeo had shot to an upright position, Ivan decided he'd rather not be attached to a screaming vertical hippie. He disengaged and leaped down to land on the nearby horizontal, silent couch. There was a moment of breathless quiet. Ivan stood with his back arched, all his fur puffed out, looking about as fierce as a 2-pound cotton ball could look. Rodeo stood with wide eyes and bleeding neck, panting and leaning away from Ivan like he was a king cobra about to strike. He was wearing nothing but a ratty pair of tidy whities and a look of utter shock. I saw my chance to take control of the situation. "Oh," I said to Rodeo with a casual smile, "you're up." Rodeo blinked at me, still breathing fast through his nose, then shook his head. What in the... He rubbed at his neck, and his eyebrows shot up when he saw blood on his fingers. "Rodeo," I said pleasantly. "This here's Ivan. Ivan, this is Rodeo." Rodeo shook his head again. "Who the hell is Ivan?" Rodeo's breathing was starting to settle down a bit, and his eyes looked slightly less frantic, so I figured it was a good time to forge ahead. "Ivan is my kitten. I've been meaning to have a talk with you about him." "You have?" "Yes, sir. But I was waiting for a chance for you guys to be formally introduced, which I guess is right now." "Well, Coyote, you picked a hell of a way to introduce us," Rodeo said, dabbing tenderly at his neck. "I didn't exactly pick it, Rodeo," I pointed out in my defense, "and your screaming sure didn't help things." But Rodeo shot me a pretty clear look, so I changed course quick. "Look, I'm sorry. I'll admit this wasn't the ideal way to bring up the subject of getting a kitten." "You think?" Rodeo asked in a tone I thought was unnecessarily nasty. "Easy, man," I said, holding up my hands for calm. "The eggs are already broken, so we may as well enjoy the omelet." "Enjoy the omelet?" "You know what I'm saying. Let's make the best of this." "And what exactly is this?" "This is me, getting a pet." Rodeo sighed and closed his eyes and started to shake his head, so I jumped in quick. "Now listen, I know we've had this conversation before, but this time is different. Ivan and me have really gotten to know each other over the last 18 hours. He is unusually restrained and dignified for a cat of his age. An old soul, Rodeo, a fellow traveler." I could hear my words speeding up, the desperation seeping into my voice. "He was born for the road, and we're already fast friends. You won't even notice him, Rodeo, I promise. He won't be any bother to you, and to me he'll be everything," I wanted to finish, but my words cut off. Rodeo tisked his tongue and rubbed his bearded jaw. "Pets, Coyote," he said, shaking his head. "Come on, you know this. Pets, they're a no..." He was going to say it. I saw it coming a mile away. Rodeo was going to pronounce pets a no-go. And once Rodeo decided something was a no-go, he never wavered on it. "I need him," I cut in before he could make it official. It wasn't something I'd planned on saying. It just came out. I knew there were plenty of fancier arguments I could make. Arguments about how lonely I was, or how responsible I'd be, or how I'd take care of him all the time and all that. But in the crush of the moment, all those arguments ran away. And I was just left with 3 dumb little words hanging there in the air right between Rodeo's no and his go. Rodeo stopped, his mouth hanging open. His eyes crinkled up. "I need him," I said again, softer. There was a little break in my voice that surprised me, a tightness in my throat I wasn't expecting, a wetness to my eyes I had to blink away quick. Rodeo looked into my swimming eyes. "Yeah," he said, "and that's the problem, sugar. It ain't good to need things you can lose." "Please, Rodeo," I said, and I said it right into those ever-loving eyes of his. "Ah, honey pie," he said. His voice wasn't much more than a whisper. I didn't say anything. He blew a big breath out through his lips. He stepped toward me and reached up with a thumb and wiped at a tear that was trickling down my cheek. He shook his head again, but this time there was a smile hiding in his beard. "Well," he said, and held out his hands. "Let me see the little guy." I didn't dare let the little flutter of hope in my heart take wing, but I stooped down and scooped up Ivan, who'd calmed down back into a normal kitten shape and size. I placed Ivan's warm little self into Rodeo's grubby hands. Rodeo cupped him in his hands, turned him around nice and easy, and then held the kitten up to his face. Ivan's whole precious little body nestled in one of Rodeo's palms. Ivan sat, happy as you please, in Rodeo's hand. He took Rodeo's unblinking gaze and gave it right back to him. He didn't meow, or tremble, or purr, or wiggle. That wasn't Ivan's way. And Rodeo didn't ooh or ah or make kissy sounds. That wasn't Rodeo's way. Those two just stood there a minute, looking at each other. But something must have passed between them, between that skinny kitten and the scruffy hippie. I saw it in Rodeo's eyes. They didn't go distant. They sparkled and softened. He blew out a resigned breath. Darn it, Coyote, he said, but he said it soft. That little hope in my heart stretched its wings just a bit wider. His eyes left Ivan's and found mine. We'll give him a test. 200 miles. My hope started fluttering for real. Mile tests were something Rodeo and I did from time to time, trying something out. A new album to listen to, a different flavor of air freshener, whatever. It was a waiting period to see if we liked something, to see if it fit within our distinctive scene. 1,000 miles, I counted. 500, he said, final offer. I stuck out my hand and he shook it with his free one. Ivan perched in his other hand the whole time, watching the negotiation. Thanks, Rodeo, you won't regret it. Well, we'll see about that. He wakes me up like that again, he's heading straight out the nearest window. I grinned. That was quite a launch you pulled off there, old man. You darn near hit your head on the ceiling. It was not funny, he said, but I could see him fighting his own smile. You were shrieking like a dang car alarm, I added through a laugh. He shook his head, but his smile broke through clear this time. I thought a badger had snuck on the bus and gone for my jugular, he said. Took 10 years off my life. Ah, it's good for you. Gives your heart some exercise. Rodeo snorted, then narrowed his eyes appraisingly at Ivan. Don't get too attached, Puddin' Pop. 500 miles, that's all he gets. I reached out and took Ivan back, holding him warm against my stomach. Rodeo wiped his hand off on his belly. Please, like Ivan had any germs Rodeo had to worry about catching. Rodeo jerked his head toward the front of the bus. Write down the mileage. The sooner we can get to 500 miles and bid this bundle of trouble farewell, the better. I rolled my eyes. Put some pants on, I said. I'm in the mood for biscuits and gravy. And that's the end of Chapter 3. It's a short one. And I'll be posting Chapter 4 as soon as I can get it taken care of. So, hope you enjoyed Chapter 3. Now we've got Rodeo and Ivan and Coyote all together. We'll see how this goes. And just like last time, if you watched Chapter 2, I did some book recommendations at the end. I'm going to do the same here with two of my very favorite books that have come out the last couple of years. The first one is a little older, but just a couple years old. It is called The Great Green Heist by Varian Johnson. Since it's been out a couple of years, it's available in paperback, which is good because, oh, looks like I've got a signed copy there. Look at that. Because it's a little easier to get paperbacks. It's a fantastic, fun middle school story. It's got like intrigue and a little bit of like romance. It's like crush romance, but really fun group of characters, really fun main character. This kid's awesome. Super fun, especially if you're stuck inside. A great diversion because it's a really fun, different kind of story. So The Great Green Heist by Varian Johnson, and one that a lot of you have probably known because it's a lot of people have read it and loved it, is Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Such a great, heartfelt story about a girl making the best of a tough situation and making friends and supporting her family and finding out who she is and what she wants. It's a great coming of age, like figure out who you are, figure out where you fit in the world kind of story. It's fun, it's funny, but it's also got some pretty serious stuff in it, so it's a really great mix. So those are my two recs for today. Front Desk by Kelly Yang and The Great Green Heist by Varian Johnson. Two fantastic reads that I can virtually guarantee you'll love them both. So you could get them from your local bookstore or hopefully your public library. Fantastic reads. Okay, thanks very much. Have a great time. I had fun reading Chapter 3 to you.